Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back in to the garage. I'm really excited for today's video and I hope that you all take the time to listen through this introduction because I'm going to do my best to really make it valuable to both the experience that you're going to have when you do this installation on your vehicle and also so that you understand some of the things behind the scenes that I dealt with in making this video and also in doing this installation. So this installation video is going to be on the upgrade of the ATOTO A6 PF head unit with backup camera functionality. When I looked online and really wanted to find some other resources to try to look to be helpful for me going into this installation, I couldn't find a lot in regards to the third generation 4Runner installing head units with a backup camera. There was plenty of head unit installation, but the backup camera really presented me with not a lot of good information. So one of the goals that I had in this video is to be able to create something that you guys could really follow, and therefore this will be one of my longest installation videos to date. Now, in order to help you guys out, I will create chapters in this video to make it easier for you to scroll through different sections of the installation. And also, I'm going to give you all the links that I can in the description of this video to every single part and component that I can give you so that you guys can find them easily on your own and hopefully feel confident going into this installation on your vehicle or your third generation 4Runner. Now, let's talk about some of the challenges that I had or some of the experiences that I had. I would say that by far during this installation, I would describe it as far more frustrating than difficult. Now, granted, that might be based upon your own personal experience or expertise. For me, wiring and electronics is really not one of my strong points. I feel fine with it, but I'm not nearly as confident or knowledgeable on it as some of you may even be out there. So for me, at times, it was really frustrating. A couple of big points that I'll go into that really encapsulate that frustration. Number one, routing the wires to the back of the vehicle was easy, but getting them up through the rear hatch was very challenging. And you'll see that point in the video as to the challenges that I came through and how I overcame them. So that was really one of the larger frustration points for me. The other one was in the wiring and the splicing and butt connecting. Now, that really shouldn't be a problem, but the wires from ATOTO were very, very thin. The gauge, I don't know what the gauge is, but extremely thin. So when you strip off that outer cover and you expose the wires, it was really hard. So what I had to do was really twist the wires and then bend most of them over to create a thicker connection for the butt connectors. That really created some problems here and there because you'd have to make certain that your connection was really strong. So I did a lot of testing, a lot of butt connecting, a lot of throwing away of some because they came loose. So, you know, there were some things in those regards that created some additional time for me. Now, aside from that, everything went really smoothly. If you're only doing the installation of the head unit, you shouldn't have many issues at all. That was actually really simple, and hopefully this video will help you have some confidence. But if you do the backup camera, I want you guys to find this video as a really solid resource for you to understand and really feel like you were here with me and understand every step that it takes to get this done successfully. Now, in the end, I'm extremely happy with not only the installation and the choices that I made to make it look as professional as possible, but also the end result. The backup camera looks fantastic. The image quality, which I hope you guys will be able to see in this video, is excellent. And one thing that I love is doing it at nighttime. You know, I have tinted windows and really it's not even as dark as I would really like it to be, but at night it's very hard to see, even with LED reverse bulbs. This backup camera changes the game. It allows me to see behind me very clearly and be able to see in parking lots, like if you have anybody walking up behind you, or in the neighborhood when I'm backing out to see if there's anybody walking through my neighborhood at night on the sidewalk, which is always something I was concerned about. So that is a huge plus. I have loved that functionality. The other part of it is I had to have a head unit that offered wireless CarPlay because I have an iPhone. So I will tell you there's a little bit of glitchiness that I've experienced in the connectivity between my phone and the unit for CarPlay, but that's only occurred when I have manually disconnected it from my phone. So for instance, if I turn off the Bluetooth on my phone in connectivity with the 4Runner, then reconnecting to it when I get into the vehicle the next time, because it does connect automatically, has presented a little bit of glitchiness, like it doesn't always work. Now, if it doesn't work and it doesn't connect or it takes a long cycle, all you have to do is swipe down on the screen of the ATOTO and choose the reboot option. It's like rebooting your phone. Once it reboots, then it's connected for me 100% of the time. Now you might ask, well, why are you disconnecting your phone? Well, there's certain things you might want to do that for if you don't want it connected, or if you're choosing to use your earbuds or something like that. If you just keep it connecting automatically every time you get in, it's worked flawlessly. GPS and the GPS apps that I use work excellent. Now, you will see in this video that I chose not to use the external microphone that comes from ATOTO, and there's two reasons. I'll spoil that part. Number one, it's ugly. I just didn't like the way it looked, and call me crazy for that, but it just didn't look good. It looked cheap in my opinion. And then secondarily, I didn't need it. I didn't want it. I didn't feel like I needed it. Now, what I've come to understand is that the microphone that's built into the ATOTO unit seems to work just fine. I've tested it on numerous calls. The clarity on my end through the speakers of the 4Runner sounds excellent. And then the feedback I've had from the party on the other line has been really good. They say it sounds just fine. Now, I haven't tested it on, the windows down or anything, and really honestly, I probably wouldn't. That's just my personal use of that. But road noise and other things go into play with that. But they say it sounds good, and the functionality of it has been flawless, to be honest. Now, I've only been using this ATOTO for about a week because I wanted to get this video pushed out to be as helpful as it could to as many of you as possible. But I will tell you that over time, I'm gonna hopefully tap into some more features and functions that I haven't even gotten to yet on this head unit. There's a whole lot of options that I haven't even explored. One of them that I'm excited to do is a startup image. So, when you turn the vehicle on, it's going to have a startup image like a Toyota logo or a 4Runner logo. That's something I'm absolutely going to do in the future, and I probably will make a video about it just to help you guys do it on your ATOTO if you so choose. So you guys will hopefully see that in the near future. Now, as always, man, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much for the support of the channel, the subscriptions, the likes, and the whole 9 yards. If you guys plan on doing this, let me know how it goes on your vehicle. Leave a comment. Let me know if you're inspired by it or if you plan on doing it. And man, I just appreciate the engagement so much. Thank you guys, as always, and I'll catch you next time. Clearly the head unit wasn't something that was ever that important to me, as this Alpine has lasted for quite some time. I don't even know when the manufacturer date is on this head unit. I'm sure I could look it up if I really cared, but this head unit came on the vehicle when I purchased it over 10 years ago from the first owner, and honestly, it just did its job, and really, it was never that important to change out. Well, today's the day. We're gonna upgrade the 4Runner with a doubled-in 7-inch ATOTO A6 PF, and I am super excited to get it in, and not only that, but also to have a backup camera. That's going to be a fantastic bonus and bring the 4Runner into a bit more modern times. All right, let's say goodbye to Alpine. On to the new. All right, guys, so here is the star of our show. It is the ATOTO A6, and I am super excited about this. Heard some really fantastic reviews online about this unit in regards to the reliability of the unit, the cost, the functionality, everything that comes along with what you get in this unit for the price, I think is really a fantastic deal. I did quite a bit of research online for quite a bit of time before I made up my mind, because this isn't something I wanted to do numerous times. I wanted to really just do it one time and have something that was reliable and that fit all my needs. So I'm really excited about seeing how this unit performs and functions for me down the road. This is a doubled-in 7-inch. It has wireless Android Auto and CarPlay, wireless CarPlay. It's got navigation, GP tracker, Wi-Fi, all kinds of good stuff. See a little, we'll give you a little 360 here on the box. Before we crack that open, I wanted to show you that we did pick up this Scosche car stereo harness. You will need this without a doubt. It's model number TA02BCB. I'll include a link in the description of the video for the Amazon link. super cheap. I like this one. It comes with these butt connectors already on here, so that's definitely worth it. And I picked this up separately because there's no way, man, for like 40 bucks or whatever this cost was for this ATOTO backup camera, there's no way I wasn't going to get it and install it at the same time as this. If you're going to upgrade and have the modern feel of a 7-inch doubled in with all these features, man, go ahead and get the backup camera. That was my motto. I will say that in shipping, this bracket right here, which is fairly sturdy, I would say, sturdy enough for its functionality. It must have been knocked askew a little bit. It was a little bent, so I had to move it back into place. So if you get this, be mindful when you handle that bracket of that location point. It also came with these two things. This is what I would assume some mounting hardware. I haven't gotten into that yet. And these are the wires that we're going to need to run from the back of the unit to the back of our vehicle, because obviously we're going to be going to the rear hatch on that. Now, let's go ahead and get into the unboxing of this ATOTO A6 and show you guys what it's all about here. Now, I am by no means an audio, let's say, expert. Wiring and audio wiring is not really my thing, but I will walk you guys through what we have here. And obviously, we're going to figure out what we need. So it looks like it comes with two of these line-out converters here. One thing I do like about the ATOTO that I've seen from different reviews and things that I looked up online is that they do a great job at labeling their wiring. So you can see external microphone, front camera in, subwoofer out, video input, so on and so forth. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to use every single one of these. But it does mean that, to me, this company does a fantastic job of setting you up for success as much as possible in order to have a nice, clean installation. Here you can see this is for external storage, it says. We've got one right here. Let's take a look and see what that says. Phone link. All right. Got another set of cables here. Bluetooth. Let's see, Wi-Fi antenna. So we got a couple things. This is our microphone. It comes with some adhesive here, which obviously you can find a place to stick it, whether it be maybe behind your steering wheel, maybe on the dash. Maybe you get creative where you want to put it, but we're going to see if we're going to use that. Not sure on that yet. This is going to be for our GPS. So we're going to route this from the back of the unit, and it comes with what appears to be a nice adhesive pad. Probably going to stick this on the dash somewhere. We've also got the brackets here for the unit. That's definitely going to be in use. We've got this nice, what is this, a trim piece, looks like, that you can use to go over your unit if you need to fill a gap in. I don't think that's going to be necessary for the 3rd gen. What are these guys? Would you look at that? HD and frosted film. So this is exactly like a screen protector on a cell phone. That's pretty cool. I did not expect that. I actually really like that. So I don't know which one I'm going to use. I'm kind of feeling like maybe HD. I don't know. Let's see. Looks like we got a bunch of booklets. That's got to be warranty information, user manuals, all that good stuff. And let's go ahead and pop this open and take a look at it. And there we go. Let's pull this out. So there is our new 7-inch doubled in. You can see we've got a microphone there. We've got our power button, and it looks like a mute button. Volume down, volume up, back, forward, home, and what looks to be a microphone sign there, or signal. And, you know, overall, this unit is so thin and lightweight. It's amazing, really. I wouldn't be surprised if this thing is actually lighter than that old hunker that I have in there right now, that Alpine. It also has obviously some connections. That's where your antenna is going to go. Connections here and here. So you know the drill, guys. This is going to be a good installation. I'm excited to get it done, and I can't wait to see how this looks on the 3rd gen 4Runner. We're going to go ahead and stick it back in there. Overall, really impressed by the packaging from ATOTO, and really impressed with every single component that comes to set you up for a successful installation. So, without further ado, let's dig in. Well, our first steps in regards to removing our current head unit is to remove the dash bezel trim. Now, this is how I'm going to choose to do it today. I'm going to go ahead and lift up my center console. And what I'm going to do is pull the e-brake up as much as I can there. I'm gonna stick my hand down in the slot and I'm gonna pull up towards myself, and that frees that portion here. And the reason why I like doing that is because really it makes for such a smooth transition to pop the rest of the trim off. Now, this trim, which is the bezel around the gear shift, what I'm gonna do here is just gently lift up underneath the backside, which is now free since we removed that. And we're gonna put our hand around here and here. All right, and now that that's free, what we wanna do is, I'm actually gonna have to take this gear shift knob and pull it back towards me to get that out. I need the keys to do that, and I don't have them right now. So we'll be right back. Now, I didn't have to go with the key route. I could have lifted this tab here and just gone with the release, but I've got the key now. With my foot on the brake, we're gonna shift the vehicle down. Engine is not on, and that'll allow you to rotate that piece up and out of the way. And now we can place it back in park. All right, so I've got you guys set up a little bit in the back seat, and the next step is to remove our dash bezel. We're gonna start by grabbing down at the base here and gently prying towards us, right? Very gently. Then what I like to do is, you'll see it starts to come free right around the radio bezel. I like to get my hands on both sides and just work my way up. And right there, it's kind of binding. So instead of just going crazy, I'm gonna grab one of my panel puller tools here. There we go, and just pop it free. A lot of times I like doing that because it just provides me with more peace of mind in regard to freeing those connection points. Actually looks like I have one broken in the dash there. Now, I'm actually gonna grab the keys once again, and we are going to move the gear shift knob out of the way so that we can pull this bezel free. And now we got a bunch of connection points back here that we need to get freed up. I'm gonna move our camera location and show you guys a better angle. All right, we've got a better angle here, I believe, to show you guys exactly what we need to disconnect. And there's gonna be a connection point right here for your bulb on your coin tray or your ash tray, either way. You're gonna have a connection point right down here, which is actually gonna be to your cigarette lighter. And you've got a connection point up top here, which is to your clock, and one right here, which goes to your ECT and some other controls over there. So what we're gonna do here is we are going to start up top. All you have to do is compress the tab down at the top here and pull away from your body there. Okay, we've got another one right here, which looks like it's going to either the ECT or the rear window controls. Okay, got this orange one right here. Pull that free. We've got a white tab connected here. Okay, got that free. Taking this easy one at a time, making sure I get everything. And obviously my goal is I don't want to damage anything in regards to my finish, my gear shift knob, my interior trim. We're gonna rotate this bulb out of the way. And you know, this bulb is actually burnt out, so if I have a spare one laying around, I'm actually gonna replace it while we've got this bezel off. Easier said than done. That sucker's not coming out, but I think it's probably just my angle. I'm gonna accommodate myself here and go over to the driver's side and see if I can't finish this up. All right, so we're on the driver's side, and I've put the key back in the ignition, and I've moved the gear shifter down to low, and it gives us just a little bit more space to operate here. So we're gonna start with the cigarette lighter. There's two connection points. There's one gray electrical point, and then there's these faded yellow connectors. Pretty easy. This bulb here, there we go. Just a rotation and a pull. Needle nose pliers definitely helped out. I couldn't get it with my hand. I don't know why. Probably should just be able to pull it out with your hand. I think I have one of those bulbs actually, so pretty excited about that. All right. And then right here we have our other two connections. We're gonna pop those free. And with all those connections free, we now have our center dash bezel out. All right, so now that the bezel is off, we are ready to remove the old head unit. And it is actually held in by 4 of these 8mm bolts. When in fact, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm missing that one right down there. Now, as luck would have it, on one of my mini salvage yard trips to find these 3rd gen gems that just aren't roadworthy any longer, I know that I've pulled some of these out for just a moment like this. You know, when I go out to salvage yards, I just pull stuff, man. If nuts and bolts and things like this are like so cheap, it's really ignorant to not get them while you're out there. So thankfully, I know I'm going to have a 4th one when I go back in. Now, I do want to get this gear shift knob out of the way without having the key in the ignition. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to remove this clip down here with this pick tool by just compressing in and pulling up. Now, that little cover there hides this compression that you can go down in here and push. And when you push it just the right way, let me get that pick tool in there. There we go. When you compress it just the right way, you can get your gear shifter knob down into a different position and let off the brake, and you won't have any issues. So we've got our gear shifter out of the way. We can put that back into the park position when we are done with our installation. Now, one thing right off the bat I can see is, gosh, a lot of stuff down here that we're going to be getting rid of that I never knew existed. But before we get there, let's go ahead and start by removing these 8mm bolts. And they are an 8mm head, but they also have a Phillips head slot in them. So honestly, it makes it quite a bit easier to remove them just with a Phillips head screwdriver. So we're gonna go ahead and remove the 3 that I have in here. All right, there we go. And you'll be able to see that head unit pop free. All right, we'll pull it straight out. Now, there are some connections to the back of this old head unit. I don't really know what that was. Obviously, it didn't matter much, whatever it was. Here is our antenna. So we're gonna unplug that. And then this is our wiring harness going back into the back of the Alpine. So there we are. There is our old Alpine. Gosh, what is this? CDA 9884. Look it up. I bet that's like a 2005 model or something crazy. All right, so we have our antenna here. We're gonna go ahead and look, see what else we've got. All of this right here is the wire harness for the old Alpine. We will not be using it. So let's go ahead and start by routing it and figuring out how we can get it out of this hole here. Well, I'll tell you, there's enough wires here to frickin' have a supercomputer in Japan. Man, check this thing out right here. This is an Alpine head unit power pack. Man, you know, call me ignorant, guys, but you know, somehow I didn't know that was down there. It might have just been because of all these, golly, all these wires. Holy cow! This is going to be a really clean installation. We're going to get rid of a lot. Let's go ahead and remove this. How about that, huh? Anybody interested in this? Maybe you guys can build a personal computer at home with that. Okay. We've got a lot of splicing here that's happened. We've got something else here that I need to unplug. There we go. And I believe, let's see, we've got a ground wire that's here at a screw. So let's get this screwdriver down here. Yep, there it is. It's come free now. I believe that these are our factory harnesses right here that we're going to need to hook into. So I'm going to go ahead and unplug. And I believe that all of this right here is trash. All right, so we have gotten rid of a rat's nest of items from underneath this dash. And man, it makes me even more excited to do this installation. So we're gonna pause here a minute. I'm gonna try to see if I can't clean up just a little bit and get familiar with the area. And then we'll get going with our installation. All right, so we're back on the workbench and we're gonna get our ATOTO 7-inch unit bracketed up. These are the two brackets we're gonna be using. It also comes with these brackets, which we won't be using. And these brackets, it's easy to tell which direction they go because they're stamped. I don't know if you can tell that, but they're stamped with an R, stamped with an L. So right and left, and to me, that right and left indicates my right, my left looking at the unit. So that's how we're gonna install it. Now, what we're gonna do here is we're gonna find the entry point here to unwrap this guy. Again, really pleased with ATOTO's packaging. I think I've had an easier time taking saran wrap off of a Thanksgiving leftover plate, to be honest with you. But man, gosh, doesn't that look great? I mean, that's beautiful. You guys might even catch my reflection here in a minute. All right, so here's our package of screws that came from our friends here at ATOTO, and we have got all kinds of sizes. There are extremely small sizes here and some others. So here's where we're going to start. We're going to go right side right there, and looks like we've got two screw locations, one right here and right here. And to me, that looks like it's this tiny little guy that they provided. I had to switch that screwdriver bit to my smallest Phillips bit just to fit these guys. There we go. All right, that one's done. We're gonna flip it over and we're gonna do the left side exactly the same. I'm just noticing that there's actually a third slot there for a third screw now that I'm on this side. So looks like we're gonna have to go back to the right side and do one more screw to finish up that side before we move on. All right, screw number 2 here on the left side. And screw number 3 on the left side. All right, flip it over and let's finish up our other side here. I don't know how I missed this screw a while ago, but that's okay. We've got it caught. There we go. All right, so our brackets are now complete and placed on the ATOTO unit. Now we need to take our brackets off of the old unit and place them onto these. All right, so this is our essentially what's called our stock bracket here. I actually need to change this bit back out to the other one. And I'm a little concerned about that guy right there. They do provide screws. I don't know if those are gonna work. But we're about to see how it works and what I need to get it done. Now, these brackets are the same. They're stamped with an L and an R. This one, I don't know if you can tell there, that one's the L. All right, there we go. Hopefully that's the last we see of that old Alpine. All right, so we're working on the right side here, and this is the R bracket on the R bracket. Now, what you want to do is you want to line it up to where this left side is flush with the back here, all the way with the back. And you'll notice that you have these little tabs here that are supposed to inset, essentially, in place and line up. And right now, it's giving me a little bit of trouble. It's not really flush if you can tell. Not sure if you can tell that or not. Let's kind of flip it over and take a look at the left side here. There's the left side. Left side's kind of doing the same thing. Looks like I've got a little bit of, yeah, that one's not as bad actually. This left side's pretty good. Looks like maybe the right side just needs a little bit of work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and install this left side now that we're on here and it looks good. And we're going to get the screws put in here. Now I've placed these two screws here in the slots. This one's not really lining up and that one certainly isn't. So I'm going to leave it there for the time being. I'm going to flip it over and we're going to go back to the right side. I'm going to see if maybe I can get my pliers here and do just a little bit of bending on these tabs, just to kind of cooperate them in the right location that's needed. There we go. Just took a little bit of playing around with, but we got it lined up. I'm going to do the same thing on this side for the time being. I'm just going to put the two in and we're going to take a look at it and see what we can do. I think that that's probably going to work. It seems to be sturdy enough. That lower tab concerns me a bit. I'm going to take a look at this just a little bit and see if maybe I can't line something up. All right, guys, so here's where I'm at on my bracket. And you'll see that I took some of that Thanksgiving saran wrap here and put it back on the screen just for some potential protection as I worked around in the shop here. But, you know, I can't get this third screw in. You might be able to tell, but that hole is offset there. I can get these two screws in just fine. And all of the locations where those tabs go down into holes, you can see them here, here, here. There's another one, and there's one. All of those locations, man, they look fine. And then also this is lined up right here. So I'm not sure why I can't get that in there, but you know, at this current moment, there's not another screw hole location that I'm able to find to provide any more security to this bracket other than these two. Now, with that said, I feel like it's stable enough to where I can install it without any issue. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to install it just like that, and two screws on each side, and we're going to go that route. All right, so now that we have our bracket in place over here on the unit, we are going to work on our wiring harnesses and our wiring. Now, what you'll notice on the harnesses that you got here from Amazon, there is a color of wire, and it's going to match up with the wires over here provided in the ATOTO. Now, what you'll see here, for instance, is this is a solid white wire with a black stripe. Here's your white wire with a black stripe there. You have a white wire here with no stripe. There's your white wire with no stripe. Now, with that said, I'm going to try to lay this out to keep it as clean as possible. And I don't love the fact here that some of these wires aren't in the correct orientation to keep it clean. So I'm going to carefully get my blade here and see if I can pop off this. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to pop off that zip tie there that they have provided. And I'll provide my own zip tie after I get everything routed exactly how I want it. And we'll get it cleaned up and looking good. So we're going to get to work on this and we'll come back, show you guys the finished result. All right, guys, so we took the gloves off because this is definitely something I wanted to do with some feel. And I'm actually really pleased with how this came out. I made sure to keep the orientation of the harnesses in the same direction in regards to accepting the other end. You'll see there. I thought that was important. And also, we were able to get all the wires routed very nicely, I feel like. And as you can see, every wire has a match. It's super easy. These wires here from the ATOTO kit, all you have to do is take that end off. It'll pop off. Twist the wires here with your fingers. And what I did is after twisting it to the end, I created a little bend in it to then make the wire just a little bit thicker, put it in, and hide that wire completely
when it accepted it. Make sure that on your tool here, when you go to crimp down on these connections here, that you crimp down with a lot of force, and after you do so, you come back and check your connection to make sure that it's nice and secure. Now, to show you guys the ones that are not currently being used here, this is a 3.5 millimeter jack here. This one, both the orange and black show that it goes to a steering wheel key. The other one here, which it looks like a brown and a black, goes to a steering wheel key. Pink goes to the rear camera, which we are going to use, but at the moment, we're not going to connect it up. We're going to have to do that once we get it all put into the vehicle. So now that this is here, we can actually connect this to the back of our unit, and we can move forward. So with the addition of a backup camera, I kind of failed to mention a couple of points, and also I failed to hook up this connection here. This is the wire that's going to go from the harness to the backup camera. Essentially, you have your backup camera here that hooks on to your license plate bracket. This is going to be routed up through the rear hatch. And then this is your connection point here in regards to your camera, obviously, right? This hooks in, this hooks in. Now, if you kind of keep in mind that, you have a couple of wires here. You have a pink wire that says to the backup lamp. So you wire that actually to your reverse lamp. And then you have the black wire, which is your chassis ground. Now this wire is going to come all the way up to the front of the vehicle, and we have these two wires here. The pink wire here actually says that it goes to this rear camera wire for your harness for your unit. It'll say to the unit. And then this red is the accessory / ignition. So we're going to figure that one out when we get there. But what we do know is that essentially this had to be connected before we hooked this up to our unit here, because if we didn't, it would be too much of a mess. So what we need to do is route this through the back of the vehicle, kind of behind the bezel, behind the radio. We'll get this hooked up, and we'll get moving.
All right, guys, we're back in the cabin. I wanted to go over a couple of things. So first off, the microphone that they provide. I'm sure it probably works well, but I'm gonna choose not to hook this up and not to use it. The biggest reason is I don't need it. If I'm driving and talking on the phone, I'm always using my AirPods, so I do not need this. And then, to be honest, if there was a secondary reason, it's just because I don't really like the way it looks. So we're gonna go ahead and ditch that to the side. Now, I wanted to show you guys where I'm routing the GPS here. And as you can see, I'm gonna put it on the driver's side. I'm gonna come around and show you guys right here through the windshield. So what I did was I placed it up here, and I haven't adhered it yet to the dash, but I placed it up here and I ran that wire. I took the wire and ran it down through there. My goal is probably, I'm gonna adhere it as close to that pillar as possible when it's all said and done. So it's gonna really look like that. And I stuck it down, and basically I got underneath the dash here and just kind of ran that wire and jammed it until I found it with my hand and pulled it through. So the next step here is we're gonna go ahead and route it underneath here and behind the carpet, and we're gonna bring it back through where it needs to connect to the unit. I wanted to show you guys how I secured this cable from the GPS. I gave it some slack up top, and I zip tied it here all the way coming down. And now that it's secured to that cable, I feel like it really provides it with a little bit more stability. So we're gonna run it across here until we get to behind where the unit's gonna be. But I wanted to show you guys how I kind of secured that cable coming down from the driver's side, in case it helps y'all at all. All right, guys, so we are ready to go ahead and start hooking some stuff up here and seeing how far we get. What I've done is I've gone ahead and ran the GPS antenna cable up here. I've ran the factory wiring harness up over this brace, this cross member. Here's our factory antenna. I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm not exactly sure what this is. And through everything that I've done so far on this wiring, I can't find a home for it. So what I'm thinking I'm gonna do is just stuff it back there. It was hooked into something with the Alpine unit, and obviously it's factory because of the way that it looks, but I just can't find a location for it. So, gosh, if you guys know, let me know what it is. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and run without it. All right, so we've got our head unit here off to the side, but first what we need to do is we need to get all of this wiring for the backup camera run through. Now this looks a bit like a rat's nest, and goodness, kind of is, but what we're gonna do is gonna pull this harness. Now this wiring is actually gonna run towards our driver's side, so what I want to do is shove it over there in the driver's side area. Now I don't want to get this GPS antenna mixed in with this wiring, so we're going to hold on to that while I push the remainder of the wiring down there. There we go. All right, we're going to go ahead and pull it through, get out of the vehicle here, pull it down into the driver's side wheel footrest area right by the gas pedal. And yeah, that's good. I like that. Now let's go over a couple of things with the wiring, guys. This is the harness here for our Bluetooth antenna. It's also here the connector for the rear camera, so we're going to be using that. We got our parking brake and our Wi-Fi antenna, so we definitely need that. So we're going to go ahead and hook this up. Looks like there's only one spot that can go in, and that's in the far left. So we've got that hooked up. All right, next here, we've got this connection, and this is subwoofer connection, video input if you have a front camera. And this also goes through, it looks like right channel auxiliary, left channel auxiliary. This right here is for that microphone that I'm choosing not to use. There's the front camera input. So we're not going to use this one. I have no use for this. I don't have a sub. I'm not using that microphone. So we're going to set that off to the side. This one right here is for external storage, a USB connection. And this one here is for our phone link, which I also don't plan on using. Now the external storage, I think I'm going to go ahead and hook up, and I might hook up the phone link just in case I change my mind in the future. There we go. And here's our phone link. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to go ahead and hook it up. To be honest, I'd probably rather just hook it up and have it back there than to not. This one hooks up right there next to the other one, next to the external storage, just neighbors hanging out there. All right, so here is our wiring harness that we prepared on our workbench. We're gonna snap this into place. There we go. Easy breezy. All right. And let's see. This one here is to the rear camera, and this right here is also to the rear camera. So I'm gonna use my leg here, and I'm sorry if you guys don't have a good view. I think it's okay, but we're gonna go ahead and make that connection now. All right. Let's go ahead and get our factory antenna installed, and that's gonna be in the top area here. There we go. Easy enough. Now I'm going to move that back, and I'm going to bring up our factory wiring harness here, because I want to go ahead and make these connection points with the factory wiring harness. There's the first, and there's the second. I have forgotten here to screw on the GPS, so we're going to go ahead and route this, and I'm actually going to undo our factory antenna, and we're going to try to screw this one in. That is going to be really difficult, guys. All right, so we've gotten it hand tightened on there, and it was definitely a challenge. And I now have these long reach needle nose pliers, and we're going in here to tighten it up the rest of the way. I think this is going to work actually pretty nicely. Yeah. All right, so that's in there really solid. So I'm I'm pleased with that for sure. And now let's plug this antenna back in. Goodness knows it might pop back up. All right, and let's feed it into its place here. Need to go ahead and shove these two cables back there. All right, let's go ahead and feed everything in. We need to tuck all of these wires over that brace. Looks like we've got a pink and a black. Now my plan here is to go back and clean all of this wiring up, zip tie it, make it look nice, organized. But as of right now, we want to make sure that everything works. Now we're going to go ahead and stick our pick tool down here back into the gear shift. I'm going to shift it back into park, and we're going to go ahead and turn it on and see if we've got it hooked up, guys. Let's see what happens. Antenna's coming up. Look at that. First boot. All right, we're gonna turn the volume down here and we're gonna see. Now, obviously this is a new unit to me, man, and really, to be honest, I don't have any idea what I'm doing here and how to operate this thing. But we need to try it. I was trying to see if I could get to the radio to see how that would work. I wanna make sure that I have everything hooked up in regards to the speakers. But man, right away, this looks absolutely fantastic. So we're gonna find a radio station here and see what we can do to see if we got it hooked up right. All right, so everything works great, the sound works great, and we'll figure out the rest later, but that gives me confidence that everything looks like it's hooked up pretty well, and I'm excited about it. I really like the functionality of this, and I know that it's also customizable, so it's going to be exciting to see exactly how this works and how we play along with it as we go. All right, so I'm super excited. Everything worked out well, but now we're gonna do some wire maintenance, and I'll spare you guys the walkthrough. But what I'm gonna do is get some zip ties out and try to clean this up to at least make it appeasable for me visually and organize it to where it's a little bit cleaner and that we can make the next steps successful. All right, guys, so we've gotten things cleaned up and tidied up pretty nicely. We still have that red wire right here that is actually gonna be needing to go to our ignition. And then we've got this crazy loom of wire here that we're actually going to run and route underneath the carpet, up against there, and down here all the way to the back of the vehicle. We're going to run it underneath the kick plates on, or the sills here, on the passenger side as well, in the rear, all the way back to the rear hatch. Looks like this install is going to go to a day 2. I'm running out of daylight, so we're probably going to continue this on another day. But I'm going to at least start by getting this wire ran as far as I can until we get to that point. I've gotten this backup camera wire to this point, and I wanted to show you guys the progress. So what I've done here is I've zip tied this camera wire, the backup camera wire, to the GPS wire, and I've run it underneath the carpet, and I'm running it now to this point. So as I run along here, we've got these factory pieces right here that you can disconnect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect these along the way and loop this wire in with the other factory wires as we run it to the rear of the vehicle. If you're wondering how to get these free, I'm using my pick tool right here. You can use a flathead screwdriver. All you need to do is go in here in between and pry up just like that. And it's just that easy. You've got it free. And it snaps right back into place. So I went out to my local Harbor Freight and I purchased this 1/4 inch by 14 feet protective wire wrap, which is just loom. It's wire loom, and you're going to need 2 rolls of this, but I wanted to show you guys. I feel like this is a really a more professional installation. So we're wrapping the wire in this 1/4 inch loom, and we're going to run it right through here into this channel. And not only that, it really helps secure it quite a lot better. So we're going to start running this, but man, if you really think about it, I think that is a much more professional looking installation. So I wanted to show you guys the progress I've made. We've been able to route this along the floor pan and its wire loom, and we had to take off, of course,
this panel right here, which is super easy. All you do is come up to the connection point and pull away, and it pops right off. And we're going to travel along here to the back side. And likewise, we've been able to run the wire loom here all the way to where it reaches right here. So we've got a little bit of work to do from here. Obviously, we have to continue to run it towards the back, and that's going to mean taking this panel off. That's going to be day 2. I'm running out of daylight, and we're going to go ahead and wrap it up and call it a day, clean up, and we'll get after it on day 2. In the process here of running the wire loom to the rear of the vehicle, and as you can see, I've taken off the trim panel here. It's that piece that goes along the wheel well on the interior. And we're going to continue forward. As you can see, I am working this wire here and tucking it underneath, but you know, to me, this is just too tight. I do have a little bit of a gap here, but you know, there's really no need to force it. So we're going to continue forward by popping this panel off and giving ourselves a little more room to run this wire all the way to the back. All right, so the first place we're going to start to remove are the screws right here along this plate at the bottom of our lift gate. And you're going to have 5 of these screws in total to remove across the width of the rear hatch. So we're going to get these unscrewed, and then we're going to move along to this panel right here. All right, now that all the screws are removed, I'm going to peel back my cargo mat here. And then the easiest way for me to remove this piece is just to get my fingers underneath the corner here and lift. And once you lift, and you're going to continue to work your way down and pop this whole piece off. And just like that, you've got it removed. And now we're ready to attack that panel. All right, in order to take this panel off, we're going to start with 3 screws. We've got 1 here and then 2 screws in this location. So we're going to go ahead and remove this screw. This is a Phillips head. All right, now that you remove that screw, you can actually pop that trim panel piece out. Comes out real easily. Let's move down to these. All right, so we're inside now, and we're going to remove this piece with 2 screws that hold it in. And this is the piece that holds in your tonneau cover, if you have one. And if you guys haven't seen the video on my channel of my 14-year search that ended in a pretty sweet Facebook Marketplace find for my tonneau cover, you should totally check it out. I was absolutely stoked when I found it and for the price I found it. All right, so now that we have those 2 screws removed, this piece just falls out and we can get better access to popping this thing free and routing our cord back. All right, so we have our screws removed, and now we're ready to try to see if we can pry this away from the carpet and see if we can get some room where we can run this wire loom down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here and run my hand up, and you're going to hear start to pop free. And you know, again, that's nothing to worry about. That's just the panel popping away from the body. And those panel clips, you might break some. Hopefully you don't. But you know, if you're anything like me, I go to the salvage yards and I find old Toyotas, whether it be 4Runners or Sequoias or Tundras, and I'll pop the body panels off, door panels or body panels, even if I don't need them, and I'll source those clips on the back end. It's a fantastic way. They're super cheap. And you know, when you do work on your own vehicle like this, it's great to have a Ziploc bag of those laying around. So thankfully I do. Now, as you've seen here, as I've been talking, I was able to pull this away. I'm gonna reach in there, and that's all the room I need, right? That's all the room I need to go ahead and get my wire loom routed. So we're going to reach in here and start to route the wire loom all the way to the back. There we go. I'm going to run back up here to the passenger side and excuse me, the driver's side rear door, and make sure that I have my wire loom running the way I like it. Now what I'm doing here is I'm making sure that I haven't pulled too much wire loom down
to the rear of the vehicle and I'm stretching anything, because we haven't set our kick panels or anything like that down yet. And really, I'm not going to do that until I'm fully installed. So I just want to make sure I'm not pulling it too far before I go ahead and sit this panel back in place. All right, so now that I've gotten that placed back, that wire loom placed back there, what I'm going to try to do, and because I'm a little concerned about the width of this wire loom, I want to go ahead and see if I can set this panel back in place with the wire loom behind it without creating any issues of fitment for the body panel plugs. So let's see how that works out. So I'm extremely happy to report that this wire loom is doing its job, and there's absolutely no issues whatsoever with tucking it back here along this panel. It fits really well. And so we're going to pop this back out, but again, this was just a fit test. As you can see here, we've got quite a bit of wire left to go to what is going to be our rear view camera. And that's a good thing, because what we're going to have to do is route it up here to the tail light and then up through the rear hatch. So that's going to be one of our next steps here. All right, guys, so we are back and we're ready to go ahead and complete the wiring to get our backup camera working. And I'm super excited, although I feel like we might still encounter some things that we need to figure out as we go along. Let me show you some wiring that I've done behind the scenes off camera here. So this is the plug-in that's going to go through our rear hatch, through a little gap here, and plug in to the rear backup camera. The rear backup camera bracket obviously attaches to your license plate, right? So the problem that I've obviously came into is that this pink wire is supposed to go from essentially the rear hatch, the lift gate, all the way and wire into our reverse tail light wire. And you guys know that is not enough wire. So this wire is actually super thin. I don't know the gauge, but it's very thin. I had some of this 18 gauge red wire lying around, and so I went ahead and used this. Now, this might look kind of funny to you guys, and it looks kind of funny to me, but it's the best I could do. And I wish I could really describe to you how I went ahead and wired this, but I had to use a butt connector. So essentially I stripped off about a ½ inch of this cover here on this pink to expose the wires. I spun the wires and I folded them in half, so almost like a taco shell, folded them in half to create more thickness, right? And that is because I had to use a butt connector that this worked with, and I had to make this thicker so that it would work. So I got those both in the butt connector, crimped them down, sealed them up with some heat shrink wrap, and then what I did is it was really flimsy. You know, the butt connector, it just connects here. The pink wire was really flimsy, and I did not want that. So what I did is kind of wrapped the pink wire on itself like this. Okay, I slid over a heat shrink tube, and that's why you have this kind of funky looking thing here. But I wanted some rigidity here because that connection to me was fragile. I didn't want a lot of movement, because this is going to be basically, I'll find somewhere to zip tie this up in the rear hatch, and then we're going to run this red wire back through to essentially to our rear backup wire, essentially, because right as soon as we put the gear in reverse, it's going to initiate and tell the head unit to turn the camera on. So that's what we've got there. And then we have this black wire which goes to the chassis ground. I went ahead and put this little eyelet here, crimped it down, put a heat shrink tube on it. I'm a little worried that that's not going to be wide enough, but I'd rather have it like this ready to go, and in case it does work, and figure it out when we get in there. So that's the work I've done off camera. Now for the fun part, let's get the wires routed. All right, so you're looking straight up here, and you guys can see we've got the light here, and what we're going to do is we're going to put in a little tool here to pop this lens out. Once that lens pops out, it's going to expose these screws. So we're going to go ahead and start by taking these screws out. Once you get the 4 screws out, this is going to hang, and obviously you've got your connection right here. We just want to squeeze that tab, and you can pull that right off. Now that your light is free and disconnected, we can start by popping this panel off. I'm going to get my panel tool here, and essentially run it right down the line, down the headliner. That way I can get my fingers behind it. There we go. And it pulls down just like that. So as you guys can see, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 connection points right here on the back. You've got a point right there. Once that comes down, we're ready on for the next step. All right, so we've got a screw right here that we're gonna have to take out. That screw holds that panel piece in. Once again, it's a very, very small screw. Now that that's out, we can very easily disconnect this panel. And in fact, it's gonna be disconnecting all the way almost to that rear seat headrest. And we got a really good view. I'm gonna show you guys what we're looking at here. All right, so here's a good view of what you're gonna see, right? We start to peel this away, and that's the view that you're gonna get. And that's the view you want. So we're exposing everything, that way we can get this wire loom all the way back, and we're gonna actually route it up right through this spot right here, because this spot right here comes up through the top, through here, into the rear hatch, and we're gonna travel down the rear hatch towards the license plate with our wiring. So that's our path, that's our goal. Let's see what we can do. All right, next step, I'm gonna go ahead and remove my driver's side tail light. I'm gonna take the entire tail light housing off of the vehicle. I don't want it hanging while I do this. There we go. All right, I got both of those screws free. Now what you're gonna do to get your tail light out is you're gonna hit firmly here, okay? And that's gonna pop these 2 plugs out of their place. We've got 3 bulbs. You just wanna do a counterclockwise twist on each one. Pull the bulb free. And let it rest nicely there. Well, I went ahead and removed my LED and my halogen bulbs because I don't want them clanging around. So, you know, it's just safer to remove those and put them to the side. What we're gonna do is we're gonna get this grommet free, and all you have to do is pull gently on the wire loom, and that's gonna go ahead and pop your grommet out of the body. And we wanna just let it hang loose right here in preparation for our next step. So anyway, here's the wiring, right, that we're gonna do. You can see this wire loom right here is taped via some electrical tape to this connector. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run this nice and comfortably up right here beside it and just add some tape there. I don't think that's gonna interfere, but now that I look at it, I don't know, that might interfere with it. On second thought, we might actually route it behind here and come up in this gap, and then come up right here and route the wires all the way up through here. I think that might be the better path, because you don't want anything chunky, the wire loom, to interfere right here with these panel clips. So I think that's what we're gonna do. Quick view of where we've gotten. We've routed this behind, and then now up through, and now we're gonna continue up the pillar here. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and take this part of the wire loom off, and that's because I'm gonna reduce the width, and I need to reduce the width and have the wire be very thin now traveling up this panel so that this doesn't get in the way. So what we're gonna do is very carefully remove our wire from our loom. There we go. And yeah, so now that we've removed our wire from our loom, we can go ahead and just take a straight blade, a razor here, and there we go. Cut that off at its place, keep it off to the side. Now that wire loom keeps that wire protected against these kind of rigid surfaces here. And yeah, time to travel up. All right, so we need to get this boot free, and really all you have to do is just kind of pull on it. You don't want to be too rough with it, but pull the boot free. That'll expose essentially the housing here, and that'll allow you to get the wiring up through this hole here into the rear lift gate area. Now that's going to travel out here, and we're going to do the same thing over here with this rubber. This one's on here a little tighter, so I'm going to grab a little tool to help get it out. There we go. Once again, man, this freaking tool right here and this set pays for itself in gold. So here we go. We've got both of these free, and this is how we're going to route our wire through. I'm going to take a look at this and see how it's connected as well, and I'm going to try to see if I can open it up to get this out of its connection point here. So pretty sure it has to do with these little guys right here. All right, so I wanted to show you guys how this came free because it could be a bit tricky, but essentially I used this pick tool and it was like butter. It came out so easy with the pick tool. But you can see these two little parts here and here, they actually clamp down and slide over these connection points. Sorry about my focus here, that wire loom keeps popping up and stealing the show. So essentially this point right here slides over this, and what I did was I just got my pick tool in there and stretched this spot while pulling up, and that was able to get it free. So easy. Well, I'm analyzing this because I'm wanting to kind of see how it's going to go once I get my wire through here. This is going to be the easy part, getting the wire here, pulling it and routing it into here. But this is where it's looking a little bit tricky. This is like completely sealed up, and we do have some electrical tape here, and it looks like there's a ridge right there. So we're gonna have to remove this electrical tape, replace it at some point, because I believe that that's gonna be how I'm gonna be able to see that wire coming through here. Otherwise, we just won't see it. So we've got a little work to do. All right, we're gonna go ahead and try to start figuring this out and routing our wire up here. So we're gonna let this act as kind of a keeper, and this one's gonna be a bit tricky, you know, trying to feed everything through. I'm gonna start with this hard piece here that I got, and actually that that turned out to be a real winner. So we're routing it up through the hole here. Now you might be asking yourself, man, why did you get so much red wire? And that's because I wanted to have enough to route back to the tail light, and it just made sense to me, right? You don't want to end up too short, that's for sure. So I wanted to have enough. All right. So we've got the wire routed up through here, and now we need to feed it through the rubber grommet. Well, we got our wires exposed, which is what we wanted to do. After we get our wire routed for our backup camera, we'll get electrical tape and make sure that this is sealed back up properly. But this will allow us now to route our wire. So we're gonna be ready to go ahead and fish our wires through, but I'm gonna start with this hardline cable. Again, this cable comes in that Amazon kit that has all the body panel pullers. I'm gonna link it for you guys in the description. It's the kit of many uses, man. So as you can see, we're gonna fish this hardline up through this rubber grommet. I don't know how else you would do this, to be honest, if you didn't have some sort of a hard line to fish, right? So you guys can see now that I've been able to work it through pretty successfully. And I'm gonna go ahead now, because there's so much on the back end here, I'm gonna go ahead and try to continue to work it through. There we go. This grommet up here is really pliable. So I don't think you have to be all that worried or concerned about ripping it unless yours is in super rough shape. All right, so now we need to figure out how to tie our wires to this rod and the best way to fish through the wires. All right, so we've got 2 small zip ties right here, and I've basically secured the wire, and we're just gonna take a shot, see what happens. And I will tell you, it's not exactly easy. And I don't know that this is gonna work. There we go. We got it, guys. This rod here worked really fantastically, and we a zip tie method worked really well, actually. So we've got it. I'm gonna go ahead and cut these zip ties off real quick, and I want to pull it all the way through before we go to the rear hatch. Mother of God. Well, the good news is that the wires have been successfully run through, but the bad news is I had to butcher this up. And I can't tell you how much I hate that, but I went ahead and made the decision to do it. We'll deal with how we're gonna clean this up afterwards. Probably some electrical tape, maybe wire loom, I'm not really sure. And man, gosh, this is just not the type of work I like to do. But I had no other option aside from just not doing it, in my opinion, because the red and the yellow connections here and this point, it was literally impossible to feed through here. I don't know how to tell you how difficult it was and how impossible it was. And that's just getting it to this point. We still have to travel through here, take this hatch panel off, and goodness, we'll see what else we're gonna run into. But for now, we've got the wires to this point, and we're gonna keep going. All right, time to take our rear hatch off, and we're gonna pop that panel piece out right there. That's gonna expose, I believe, a 10mm bolt. That is correct, 10mm. And we need to go ahead and take this all the way out. Now that this is out, we can go ahead and proceed with popping off our panel. So we're gonna start by getting our panel popped off, and we're gonna get our panel tool in between the body here. And you're gonna push it until you feel it stop. That's an indication that you've got the panel clip there. There we go. Now that it's hanging, you want to actually push up towards the front of the vehicle. A nice firm push. There we go. That push takes this seating out and allows it to come free from where the window rolls down. All right, now that our back panel trim piece is off, it's time to loosen this up. And looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 9 10mm bolts here. Now that those are free, I also have 1, 2, 3 connection points here that keep this in. All right, we're gonna go ahead and try to get these free. I'm gonna try these right down here, actually. There we go, 1 pop out. All right, 2 pops out. Now that those 2 pop out, this one should be able to slide, and it does. Now be very careful with this, as we have some components here that I think I'm gonna go ahead and try to unplug. Probably should have done that beforehand, but I wasn't 100% certain. All right, now we need to pop this little guy out, and I'm gonna get my pick tool here, and there's these little tabs, basically little retention tabs. There we go. Here and here, just push down on those guys, pull out. And this is gonna be our access point to get these wires routed. So we have the back plate off. I was able to go ahead and remove the electrical connections from the power window motor. And that took me probably about 15 to 20 minutes of time. I went through the back here and basically squeezed these tabs on the back to loosen these connections free. This one was a little bit of a bugger. What I ended up doing was cutting the former tape to just free this and then take this out once it came with the back plate and then retape it. You guys will kind of figure it out if you take the same route. So I didn't want that protection plate, that dust plate, whatever you want to call it. I didn't want it just hanging there with the weight on the wires. That didn't feel good. So the next big challenge is going to be this. We're going to have to route those wires up through that channel into the rear lift gate, and this is where we're aiming to go, right in there, guys, right in there. All right, I wanted to show you guys how I was able to successfully fish this through. I have my running cable and I zip tied my wire around it in 2 locations. I have this coming through here. The next big step and hurdle is going to be these guys. I'm just going to try to yoink it through and see what happens. But what I was able to do is actually pull the gate down here towards me and reach my arm up into that hole all the way up here. I was able to reach my arm all the way up there because really as you're fishing this in, it's getting caught right in here, and it does get caught. So you got to kind of be patient, play with it, move. You got to move that wire back there. Let's see if I can get you guys a view on it. Yep. You got to move that wire right there with your hand. You guys can see where that comes through, and get it fished through successfully. If you're wondering why I'm swapping gloves like a fashion statement, it's because I have a bit of a flesh wound, one might say. And yeah, it's not the best. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and see if we can't pull the rest of these through. All right, guys, so here we are. We've got our backup camera installed. Basically, all you gotta do is screw it into your license plate. And it has this wire that runs from the back of it. Now, what you have to do to get this to work is you've got to remove the left side or the driver's side of your license plate bulb. That's 2 screws and a lens cover. Once you remove it, pull it out as far as you can. Now what I'm going to try to show you is where this wire routes to, and it is up into that little area right there. If you start to route the wires, you'll feel that there's kind of a crack of daylight in there that you got to shove and work through. Now I'll show you on the back end. Here's our wires right here, and this is where that comes out. So right in there is where that comes out. Now, in relation to the totality of the rear hatch, let me get you guys zoomed in here. There we go. Sorry about that. This is where we're at, right? So you kind of have to work in this hole, come from the back of the vehicle, and that is going to be right there where your wire is. Now, I did have to get a pick tool and pick each of these things out individually as they came, the yellow, the red, and that, and kind of had to work for about 5 to 10 minutes to get it to get through that small space, because I think on camera it probably looks like there's more room than there is in actuality. All right, so we've got those routed. Now we're gonna try to see if we can't marry up some components here. Okay guys, lots of progress here, and it's been off camera, so I wanted to show you what we've done. We have routed these wires with some zip ties along the existing wire route, and the best way to think of that is just because if it goes along the existing wire route, it's not going to cause any issue. I still have to clip some because we got some testing to do, but we have actually used a ground wire right there. We used basically an eyelet there to crimp onto our wire, and we've got this wire hanging out here. And that's because we're just gonna kind of leave it in this state until we tap in to the reverse light and see if the camera works. Here's where we're at on the wiring for the tail light. What we did is we took a butt connector, which is one of these right here. I cut the red and blue wire to the reverse light. I took one end of the butt connector and put this into that connection. And then on the other end of the butt connector, I threaded my red wire with the red and blue wire into the butt connector. Once I did that, I crimped it down, taped it, put the reverse light in there to test it, and the light did come on, so we know we've got a good connection there. Well, here we are closing out another day, and I'm pretty proud of where we've gotten. We've gotten all this closed back up here, and I think it turns out looking pretty good. Electrical tape is not the best look, but all in all, it looks okay. I've got the wiring back and the tail light back in place. I've got the wiring routed here, and it looks good down there. So there's a lot of things that we've done well here. The problem that I'm facing is in the fact that when I turn on the vehicle and I shift it into reverse, and guys, by no means, by the way, is this how it's gonna stay. I just shoved this in here so I could shut the rear hatch tonight to secure the vehicle. But when I go into reverse, it actually does, it shows like your backup lines, like the navigation lines, if you will, but it does not show an image. So it's just a black screen with the lines. I don't know if that has something to do with the connection points with the RCAs or with my ground. I'm gonna have to do some research here and troubleshoot. Come back tomorrow and see if I can close it up. I also have a red wire on the inside of the vehicle that needs to go to the ignition, I believe, and I don't know if that's what's maybe causing our problem. So we will we'll get back at it tomorrow and see what we can do. Okay guys, we have found our solution, and I'm stoked to say we have a working rear camera. And this is what it was. I had completely forgotten about this red wire that is actually coming from the reverse camera loom on the back of the ATOTO wiring harness, right? So you have the wiring harnesses from ATOTO, and one of them is the one that has the rear camera, the yellow video plug, and this wire is coming off of it, and it says accessory ignition 12 volts. Well, I couldn't plug this in. It wasn't, it wasn't long enough. So what I did is I butt connected it to an 18 gauge wire here. And again, I haven't cleaned this up. So, and then I butt connected it here to a wire tap, and I tapped it into my ignition. This is the IGN fuse panel for 10 amp. I wire tapped it in here, and I added an additional 10 amp fuse. You can see I'm stacking those 10s. So essentially 20 amps. I tested it with 10 amps. It's just not enough. It wouldn't even crank the starter. And with that additional 10 amp fuse in there, it starts just like it did before. So that should be plenty. And with that one solution, we've got a working rear backup camera. Really excited to show it to you guys. It looks fantastic. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up. I'm gonna get it routed up here and get it taped up with some electrical tape. We'll show you how it looks, and then we'll get with putting all this stuff back together. Okay guys, here's the final cleaned up product. Got it sat within the 1/4 inch wire loom, ran through that connector there and in through the back. And I must say, I think it looks pretty good. A lot better than the bare wires, and it's protected. So definitely happy with that. So I wanted to show you guys how I routed these wires in finality. And as you can see here, the red and the black, those red and black loose, that's our wires there. I routed them just, I guess I should kind of take you for some context here. On the driver's side, we routed them again with the existing wire looms. And I had a lot of additional wire, as you can see, both black and red. The pink is not that much additional because it comes from the ATOTO kit. And this is kind of how we did it. We have my ground wire right here, and we've run the red and the black here, looped it around, and tied in. Now, you're probably thinking what I was thinking, which is this is a whole lot of wire to be weighing on that one location. And that one location is these two wires together. This one controls the latch mechanism, and this is an electrical wire here. All I can say is there's really nowhere else for me to put it comfortably to make sure it's out of the way. And so what I did is zip tie it and use some electrical tape. And I tested and I tested and I tested and I tested. And it has no bearing so far on the latch mechanism. So we're gonna keep it here. And if something in the future happens, I'm just gonna have to take all this apart, figure it out. But for now, this is where we're gonna keep it, and we're gonna start putting it all back together. Now this is a view of the wire for the reverse camera, and it actually travels up and underneath and behind the license plate light right there. So you're gonna have a little bit of a rub on that bracket right here, but you know, it has a little bit of a play, which is what I wanted. I wanted a bit of a play there. There's really nowhere else to route it. Now, some people have complained online that the space here in between the camera and the latch is troublesome, if you will. But for the addition of a rear view camera, man, that's being awfully picky on a 25-year-old vehicle. I think that's the best way I could route it. I couldn't route it up and behind here. There wasn't enough space. That would have been ideal, but this is where it's gonna go. So I don't think there's any other route. If you guys do this, I think that's how you're gonna have to live with it, unless you surprise me and find a better way. So going in reverse of uninstalling, we have the wires here for the power window and the remote entry. And we went ahead and installed this back into its location. The easiest way to do that is to push through, take this little knobber and pull it up. It has grooves in there that holds it in place. And then all of these things actually tuck in. You can actually take this out and untuck it. So it's really nice, but all that tucks in. So that's fairly straightforward and simple. Now we're gonna go ahead and get the back plate hooked up. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is a little bit of testing. We are going to hook this back up here first, that electrical connection there, and we're gonna let it hang. And the reason we're gonna let it hang is because we wanna test the travel of the rear window to make certain that it doesn't interfere with any of the components that we've installed prior to continuing forward and closing this back up. All right, so what I'm doing right now is I'm taking a flashlight to look through the tinted glass to make certain, I didn't hear anything, but just to make 100% certain nothing's rubbing or touching. That is a success. Super happy about that. Everything looks excellent. So we're ready to go ahead and put this back on. Okay, so if we remember, we've got this one keeper plug here, and we've got two slots for these two that are still in there. So the first way I'm gonna attack this is actually by trying to get those lined up. And there we go. So we're gonna go ahead and slide this one in. Okay, there it is. I'm gonna come down to the back side here to make sure that these two are lined up and snap them in. There we are. So now it's held in place by those three snaps, and we can go ahead and get our 10mm out. Gonna go ahead and make sure to torque them to the appropriate torque here. I always like to finish everything up by hand just to make sure I like where it's at. All right, now we got these two keeper pieces here we got to plug back in for our electrical connections. Actually make that 3. 1, 2, and 3. Those are plugged back in and look great. All right, we're gonna give this a wipe down while we have the panel off, and then we'll get to putting the panel back on. All right, so prior to installation of the panel, you want to make certain that you have all 10 panel clips in place. If you don't have them, technically you probably need maybe 8 or 9 strategically placed, but it's best if you have all 10. That way, once you get it hanging, you can push it in place and be confident. We're gonna start by right up here trying to get this lip and weather stripping for the window attached prior to going ahead and pushing the panel clips in place. Now the easiest way I find of doing this is by pushing the weather stripping for the rear window all the way against the rear window, all the way across. And once you push it up on the window, then apply pressure down towards the back of the vehicle. And you'll be able to feel when you got it. Now you come around, and the easiest way for me to do it is to go to the very back of the vehicle, and that way I can see right here in the gap that my panel clips are aligned. And there we go. We got it installed. All right, we're gonna go ahead and put our pull strap back on, and pay special attention here because it does go on in one particular way. And now we're just gonna put our trim piece back on, and there we go. Okay guys, so we've started by snapping all of this side cargo piece into place, and everything looks really good. You just want to make sure your wires aren't routed directly into this location here. And that's just because obviously you don't want that clip to go through and interfere with those wires whatsoever. Now we need to go ahead and put this screw back into its location here, which holds this trim piece in place. All right, now that this is in place, we can go ahead and put this top piece back in place. Now, I'm not sure if you can tell or not, but it's easy to see that he has a peg here that goes inside of a hole. And so this is just a simple process to get it lined up. And I'm gonna start on the passenger side here and get one click of that body panel piece in place, making sure that your electrical connection here is hanging free. All right. That's nice and secure, so now we can go ahead and hook up our cargo area light. Remember, this has 4 screws, and they're Phillips head screws that put it in place. All right, now before you close it up, it's a good idea to test the lamp, which it's working. Get it put back in its location. There we go. Top portion's done. All right, we can't forget about our trim piece over here, which is super easy. It goes into place with a Phillips head, gets secured. This is for your tonneau cover to rest in its location. There we go. That's all said and done. Now let's go to the bottom. Ready to put this back down and in place and get this tidied back up. This one's pretty easy. You just line up your screw holes and everything pushes directly into place. All right, so there you have it. Everything is tidied up in the cargo area. We need to go ahead and move towards the driver rear side and also the front side to tidy up the rest of the trim pieces and get everything put back together the way it was before we started. Before I close everything up, I wanted to show you guys the path of my wire here. And this is the wire loom that I've run all the way to the back of the vehicle. What I did here is I opened this part up right here and placed it in there. That is a factory connector. And then I ran it and tied it here with some electrical tape to the existing cord and ran it all the way back through that back panel there. So this looks really good. And everything is tied up nicely and connected nicely. Let's get that panel put back on. All right, so we've cleaned our panel up before reinstallation. You're gonna want to route your seat belt through this gap right here. And then the post here for your rear seat to put back in place goes through that Now we're gonna go ahead and start to compress it. So now we're on to the seat belt trim piece here, and this is the one that covers the seat belt mechanism, the pillar in between the front and the rear door. And I would recommend you guys, if you ever have this piece out, take your seat belt, pull it out to maximum capacity, then take your air compressor with a blowgun and blow all of this out. You know, this is a high place for dirt, debris, dust, and it's gonna impact the way your seatbelt mechanism works and how nicely it pulls the seatbelt back in. While you have it extracted, go ahead and take some cleaner and a microfiber towel and really wipe it down little by little until it goes back. Now for the trim piece, we've got the back of the trim piece here to show you that it has 3 connection points. Make sure you have all 3 of these. This one's actually broken, so I have some spares. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this one out and replace it. This one also is a little bit broken, and that one looks good. So we're gonna go get 2 replacements for these and be right back. All right guys, we have our replacements. And once again, if you're wondering, man, how do I have replacements on hand? The salvage yards, guys. Go to your salvage yard, find your Toyota vehicles, either 4Runner, Sequoias, Tundras, and pull these panel pieces out, man. It's probably the best thing you can do. All right, now we're gonna slide this obviously in between both of your seat belts. We're gonna get it lined up. Okay, there's the first piece. Second. And I think the third one snapped in already. All right, so now we're gonna put the trim piece here on the kick panel. This one essentially just slides into place. Super, super simple, right? You'll hear that snap. That means you're secure. All right, so that one's done. Now to our door sill plate here, which we want to make sure, once again, everything lines up properly. You can hear it snap into place there. There we go. And this one has 4 screws in it back to front here. All right, done. All right guys, we are back on the inside of the vehicle and we are ready to complete installation. Now, one unfortunate side effect of this install has been my factory clock. I'm not exactly certain what has happened to it, but it is unfortunately no longer working. So we're gonna have to figure that out at a future date. Right now, I'm ready to wrap this installation back up. So how we're gonna go ahead and do that is hook everything back on the back side of the dash, which includes all of our connections for our cigarette lighters and things of that nature. So it also includes the bulb. I'm gonna go down to the opposite side and hook those things back up from the passenger side of the vehicle. Just getting a lay of the land here on exactly what it is I need to hook up. And we've got 4 connections. We've got one here for the cigarette lighter and one right beside it. We also have 2 blue connections down at the bottom for both additional cigarette lighter hookups. Those plug directly back in. And we have the bulb for our ashtray, which, come to think of it, that bulb is burnt out. And I think I was gonna try to replace that, wasn't I, guys? So let me see if I can go ahead and do that while I have it out. All right, guys, well, the bulb replacement's gonna have to wait, so we'll snap it back into place. I did not have one of those small little guys laying around, which honestly, not very surprised about that. So looks like we've got everything hooked up appropriately in the back and we're ready to snap this back in place. All right, so moment of truth. We're gonna make sure that all of our cables are out of the way on the bottom and make sure that the cables are routed appropriately up top. There we go. All right, perfect. It snaps back into place just as it should. We're gonna go ahead and give it a wipe down while we're at it. and get it nice and cleaned up. Now I did notice that while I had it out that I also was missing one of these retaining clips, so I'll have to pull that from the junkyard if I can find one, or possibly try to see if I can order it. But there is a vehicle at the junkyard I could possibly source that from. So there we go. All right, we can move our bubble wrap and we can shift this back up into neutral is where I'm going to shift it. And now I'm going to go ahead and clean this up. We've got some dust and debris. I'm going to get an agitator brush, and I also want to get this looks like caked on foam. I want to get that off of that shifter housing. All right, so we've gotten everything cleaned off here, and we're going to go ahead and I've compressed this tab in here so that it allows me, while the vehicle's off, to go ahead and shift this knob down into drive. And we're going to go sideways here, and let's see, I want to make sure that I clean this portion up down here as well. That looks good. We're going to go sideways and snap it back into place. One of our finishing steps here is going to be to go ahead and remove this protective covering, and to go ahead and get the screen protector that came with it from ATOTO placed on there. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and install our screen protector. And from ATOTO, there's two different ones that come. We've got the frosted film and the HD film. Now, for me, I like everything to be sharp. I don't really feel like I need it frosted, so I'm going to go with the HD film. We're going to go ahead and finally peel this protective adhesive that came with it from the factory. Looks like I got a little piece there I need to get out with a pick. And we're going to go ahead and install this screen protector. Now, there shouldn't be any dust at all on the screen, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a wipe with a very nice plush microfiber. Now we're going to go ahead and do the HD film. Now, I'm assuming this works exactly like a screen protector on your phone, and it has these 1-2 tabs that are very, very easy to follow. So we've got one right here that says, please peel off this mask before application. And then 2, please peel this mask off after installation. So it doesn't say any type of like direction, but we're going to go ahead and do number 1 first, and that will be the side that we apply to the screen. The hardest part about this is being careful enough to where you don't let it touch anything. All right, to no shock whatsoever, we have some pretty significant air bubbles. So what I'm going to do is take this Bondo squeegee and just simply work the air bubbles out. All right, so we've gotten as many air bubbles out as we can, and now we're going to go ahead and remove the top protective layer. Definitely keep this layer on there when you're trying to get the air bubbles out. It helps protect the screen cover from any unnecessary scratches. So last thing here is I'm going to take my microfiber and just firmly wipe and work over that screen protector. And there we have it, guys. I don't know that I've ever been this excited to be done with an installation. This has been an absolute bear, but I'll tell you, I am so excited to show you guys the finished results and how good this looks. That's coming up next. Hey guys, I'm Ben Winkle, and welcome back to the garage. So I wanted to show you guys a nice variable of views on real-time action with the backup camera. This first one is going to be late at night in a local shopping center parking lot. As I reverse out, you'll see these cars behind me come into view. I wanted to show you that for camera and image quality. Here you'll see me backing out of a parking spot,
And this again is very late at night. And I like to show the green of the trees here for camera quality. It just really stands out in my opinion. This one's during the day here in the morning, backing out of a parking lot in a gas station. And to give you guys some idea, those grid lines can be removed from the view if you don't like them. They can actually be resized and changed. There's quite a few options with that grid. And you can play around with it, and I will continue to find exactly the setting that I like and the setting that I prefer. Here I'm using them to back into a parking spot here. No cars on my left or right, so I was using just the ATOTO view as I backed in. Next, I'm going to be showing you guys the real time that it takes to link up to wireless CarPlay. And as you'll see, it is hardly any time at all. You'll see me cycle through my music app and a navigation app and do some simple scrolling. I highly recommend this unit, guys. I absolutely love it. And I really hope this video helped you guys out a lot. Until next time.